Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. It is the first week of the NFL season. There are 2 games down, but plenty more to go. To break it all down and find you winners to start the weekend on the right foot is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this Saturday morning?
Oh, PSA to Roger Goodell, playing football games on shitty fields. Not very demure, not very classy.
Well, we have 2 games in the books. Both of them were really good games that came down to the wire. KC beat Baltimore by a literal toe. Well, not necessarily a toe. They still would have had to go for 2, and we would have seen what would have happened there. What were your impressions of the Thursday night game?
So it's weird to me. So, you and I have had this conversation on air and off air. I am a fan of dynasties. I like when there's a team that is just dominating a sport and everybody else has to try to figure out what they can do to beat that team. I think that's probably about as bad as the Chiefs are going to look this year, and they still scored 2 touchdowns in plays in which guys were never even touched. But the thing that's weird to me is how very few people, I did hear a couple people, but very few, there was so much praise for how competitive and how good Baltimore played, but Lamar Jackson still missed the 2 throws that could have won the game.
I think you touched on everything that I was going to touch on, but I'll take it a step further. This felt like a game where Kansas City had plenty left in the bag to bring out when these 2 teams possibly meet later. Baltimore threw the kitchen sink at this game, and they still came up short. And I feel like Kansas City dominated this game for the most part. Derrick Henry was a complete non-factor. Baltimore could not consistently move the ball unless Lamar was running all over the place and taking hits. And everything that Kansas City did in that game is sustainable, and I don't really feel like the things that Baltimore did are sustainable. Now, Baltimore's not going to have to do that to beat other teams in the league, but this Baltimore team is coming off a loss at home in the AFC Championship game. Lamar's a 2-time MVP. Every season is put up or shut up. And week 1 games don't decide their season. It's January and February. And right now, I don't see anything that makes me think Baltimore is going to be better than Kansas City this January than they were last January.
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird to me, like the talk out of like all the Ravens players who are like, oh, if that's the best you've got no chance against us. They're going to look much better than that.
That wasn't the best Kansas City has.
And I don't know how much, more intense the Ravens could play. Like, the Ravens were playing that game like it was the AFC Championship game, and the Chiefs are out there running reverses to rookie wide receivers. Like, I don't know.
It just felt like Kansas City. We often talk about games that are big brother games where, the other team just goes out there and just dominates, and they're just like, yeah, you can't touch us. And this wasn't quite that. This felt more like the 17-year-old holding back a little bit against the 14-year-old so that there's actually some competition.
Yeah.
But they're just like, KC's just better than Baltimore. They're going to continue to be better than Baltimore because Lamar can't make the big throws. And we've seen that now a bunch of games in a row.
Yep.
Brock Purdy had chances to beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Couldn't make the throws. Josh Allen had chances to beat Kansas City. Well, at least take the lead against Kansas City in that game. And he couldn't make the throws. And in this game, Lamar had opportunities, and he just couldn't make the throws.
Yep.
The game we saw last night, Philadelphia ends up beating Green Bay. Everybody was all over Green Bay. And Philadelphia coming off the funk that they ended the season on last year. What were your impressions of last night's game?
I think Saquon Barkley probably has a chance to be Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, well, he won't be MVP because we don't do that for running backs.
yeah, he can't be MVP, but he can be Offensive Player of the Year. I think it was as expected. I have not heard an official report yet of the Jordan Love injury. I think both teams looked good. Both teams looked as expected. And it was ugly, a lot of penalties, but that was probably expected for such a weird way to open the season.
Yeah, I expected this to be a high-scoring game. I actually hit a couple bets on this game. I hit a pretty nice 4-leg parlay, and I hit a nice 2-leg parlay on the over in Jordan Love over 258, which hit on the very last drive, which was very nice. I expect both these teams to be able to score a lot of points, and I think they're going to give up a lot of points, and that's what I saw, and that's how I'll be betting these teams moving forward.
Yeah, and I think what helps both of them, I think both of them play in divisions where, we know the Lions are for real, but I don't think the Vikings and the Bears, I don't think are going to score a lot of points, and I think the Eagles play in a division.
I think the Bears are going to be a decent 9-10 win team. I don't think they're going to be like great, but I think they're going to be a good team.
I don't think they're going to win a shootout if Jordan Love's healthy, though. And I don't think the Eagles play in a division with anybody that can outscore them. So I think they're going to stack
Dallas.
A lot.
Dallas always seems to play well against Philly.
Yeah, I just feel like both those teams are going to stack a ton of wins in their division.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the main course, Jimmy.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns hosting the Dallas Cowboys at the newly minted Huntington Bank Vault on the shores of Lake Erie. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites, minus 130 on their money line, plus 110 for the Cowboys. Over-under sits at 41. Jimmy, what do you expect today on the shores of Lake Erie?
So Jedrick Wills has been officially ruled out.
Yeah, he said a couple days ago he wasn't going to start. So it's going to be Conklin at left guard or left tackle, and I would think Jones at right tackle. Yeah,
so I am extremely concerned about that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm extremely concerned about it. I'm concerned about Deshaun. I'm concerned about Jerome Ford. I think Dallas is going to be just good enough. I think Dallas is probably going to win the game outright, but I'm absolutely going to take Dallas here, and I'm going to take the under as well.
I'm taking Dallas. I'm taking the over. I think this game winds up being like 24-14, 24-17. I think Dallas is going to win this game. Not easily, but I feel like they'll mostly have control of this game and end up winning by a touchdown. I look at what happened with this Browns defense last year. When they played competent offenses with competent quarterbacks, they gave up points.
Yeah, and the one thing we talked about in the preseason, the scheme that the Browns were playing made them not be able to stop a slot receiver, and you get to start week one with a super rested CeeDee Lamb.
Who's freshly paid and probably looking to make a statement.
Yeah.
Is this a must-win for the Browns?
I don't think it's a must-win because the next 4 games are all winnable. So I don't think it's a must-win for the Browns. I do think it's needs to play well against a good defense for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're hitting the head right on the nail, or hitting the nail right on the head there. That Watson has to play well. He can't look bad at for any stretches.
Because that was the thing. Like, as we talked about, as the organization said, hey, we don't need Deshaun Watson to go out there in the preseason for 15 snaps. He's ready to go. So if he plays poorly for any stretch of this game, you cannot use rust as an excuse anymore.
No, and I don't want to hear anything about, him and the receivers just weren't on the right page. Well, that's why you need to play during the preseason, because they've added a lot of these choice routes, Jimmy, which means the receiver and the quarterback have to be on the same page. They have to be making the same reads, and they have to be making the same decisions based on those reads. Otherwise, we could see some bad interceptions from Deshaun Watson. I think we're going to get at least 1 or 2 of those. And I've heard people say Dallas' secondary isn't that great. They weren't that great last year because they lost Stephon Gilmore. They're going to be better this year. And that defensive front is tough. When I look at the matchups, I just see that Dallas defensive line against the Browns beat up and just influx offensive line, and their ability to get pressure on Deshaun Watson is probably going to make him make mistakes. So that's why I like Dallas.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Well, there are other games on the schedule, Jimmy. I don't know if you knew that.
I did.
Up next, we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills, who are home facing the Arizona Cardinals. They are 6.5-point favorites, minus 305 on the money line, plus 240 for the Cardinals. Over-under sits at 47. What are you expecting from this game here, Jimmy?
I'm taking the Bills at -6.5 because if they are as good as advertised, they better be able to beat the Cardinals by a touchdown.
I'm taking the Bills as well. I like the over in this game because I don't think Arizona's defense is remotely good. And I think Arizona is going to be able to score some points. This feels like a game where Buffalo should be able to score pretty easily. If their offense looks bad, that's going to spell trouble for the rest of the year. I don't like the 6.5 line on this. I'm taking Buffalo in a parlay, on a money line parlay, just because I don't trust them to win this game by a touchdown. I'm also a little worried about Arizona's backdoor cover potential. That's something Kyler Murray's really good at, so we'll see if he can continue that trend this year. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites, -170 on their money line. The Jags are +143. Over-under sits at 49. Jimmy, I'm taking the Jags.
No, you're not.
I put them in a parlay, a money line parlay.
Oh my goodness.
Just a small one, just a small underdogs with an underdogs parlay with some bonus bet action that I got. I have questions about this Miami team, man. I also like the over in this game because I think both offenses are going to roll.
I have questions about this team when they go to play in Buffalo and New York and other cold weather places later in the season. I got no questions about them in this. Dolphins win this one easy.
If Jacksonville struggles to start the season, how bad would they have to be for Peterson to get how bad would they have to be for Peterson to get fired early?
I think Peterson will probably survive the season because I don't think they have anything in place to replace him with.
That's fair. That's very fair. The Caleb Williams era starts at home as 3.5-point favorites against the Tennessee Titans. Bears -190, Titans +158. Over-under sits at 44.5. Are you picking against the Bears here, Jimmy?
I imagine the Bears win this game by the field goal, so I'm going to take the Titans at +3.5. These are two teams that I need to see what they look like because I'm not willing to definitively say that Caleb Williams is going to look better than Will Levis. He probably will, but I'm not willing to say that yet. So I'm going to take the Titans here in week 1 at +3.5.
I'm going to take the Bears. I think that Bears defense against Will Levis, I think they're going to eat him up. I think Tennessee's going to have trouble moving the ball. Although if Will Levis looks competent against this Bears defense, I will definitely be recalibrating that. It'll be interesting to see what that offensive line looks like for Tennessee with the Callahans there. That's really what I want to look at. If what does Pollard look like? What does their backfield situation look like? If they're going to lean on Pollard for 15 to 20 touches a game, I don't like them as much as if he's getting 10 to 15 and they're mixing in the rookie whose name I'm forgetting right now. If they mix him in a little more, I think that is a better way forward for them. I just don't think Tennessee's very good, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it just really, well, as I said, I think with the Titans and all this, it's going to depend on Will Levis's play because I actually like a lot of their offensive pieces. So we'll see what it looks like. I mean, the Bears, if Caleb Williams is good out of the gate, the Bears are going to be very competitive all year.
Yeah, they got a good defense. They got plenty of weapons on offense. The offensive line they should be okay. They're not great, but they should be good enough. Up next, the Atlanta Falcons are also 3.5-point favorites at home over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Falcons -195, Pittsburgh +162. Over-under sits at 41.5. What are you expecting for Kirk Cousins' Atlanta Falcons debut?
I think it'll take some time for them to really get rolling on offense. So I'm going to take the Steelers here at +3.5. I think the Falcons probably win by a field goal, but I think Mike Tomlin will have his defensive unit ready to play. And I think Atlanta's offense in 3 or 4 weeks is going to be really, really good, but it'll probably take them some time to figure out exactly what they are. So I'm taking the Steelers here in this one.
100% agreement with you. I like the Steelers on the road in this game. I think they lose, but like you said, I think this is a field goal game. I think they keep it close. Maybe they sneak a win. Tomlin's a really good coach, man. Yeah. And I feel like they're going to find a way to throw a couple of deep shots and hit Pickens or bust a big play. It just seems to be what they always do. So I think they keep that going, even though I don't think Pittsburgh. This is a game that if Pittsburgh gets blown out in this game right out of the gate, oh man, we're going to be all over Pittsburgh being bad.
Yep.
Speaking of teams that I'm all over being bad, the New England Patriots are traveling to the The New England Patriots are traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Cincinnati are 7.5-point favorites, minus 420 at home, plus 320 for the Patriots. 40.5 is the over-under. Jimmy, I'm all over Cincinnati in this game. I have a parlay with New England's under. I have this game going under. I don't know how New England scores, so Cincinnati could probably win this, score 13, and cover this spread. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually had it at 8.5 and 41, and I got the Bengals and the under. I think the Bengals will score more points than that, but I agree. I don't think New England. I mean, our expectation right now is New England is one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league, and I still think Cincinnati has a good defense. Joe Burrow seems focused and ready to go. I think this will be a good statement win for them to start the season. So Cincinnati all day on this one.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me about the under is if Cincinnati really wants to put a statement out there and they try to run up the score.
Yeah.
Our next game sees the Houston Texans traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Texans are 3-point favorites here, minus 165 for their money line, plus 140 for the Colts. Over-under sits at 48.5. Jimmy, you're all over Houston this year. Do you have them winning on the road to start the season?
I, for the life of me, cannot understand why this line is only 3. I don't get it. There's no way on a neutral field these teams are even. Houston wins this thing easy.
I agree. I like Houston. I like the over. I think Richardson's going to do just enough late in the game to make people think he's still good. And I think we're going to be able to get a lot of lines where it's shifted more towards the Colts than it should be because people are overvaluing Richardson.
That's fair.
I don't think he can throw. And I think everybody watched all of the tape last year and they're like, oh, he's just a bulkier version of Daniel Jones. Like that should be, if you keep him contained, you keep him corral, you make him make precision passes, he's not going to be able to do it. And I think that's going to be his season for as long of it as he plays before he gets hurt again. Speaking of Daniel Jones, he starts the season off at home hosting Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants are 1.5-point favorites, the Vikings are 1.5-point favorites here, minus 125 on their money line, plus 105 for the Giants. Over-under sits at 41. Jimmy, this is one of those games you just look at and go, what the fuck?
Yeah, this is one of the 2 games that I had the hardest time picking, but I'm going to take the Vikings because they might win 2-0. So,
well, I'm going to take the Giants because
what?
I'm taking the points. It's Sam Darnold on the road in New York. That New York defense, it's not a top 5 defense. It's not even a top 5 when there's top 15 defense. You know, when you name 15 top 5 defenses, but they're a good defense. They can get pressure. I think they're going to get pressure on Sam Darnold, and he's going to make mistakes because he's Sam Darnold.
All right.
I mean, this isn't an endorsement of Daniel Jones as a good quarterback. I just think Brian Daboll knows this is a winnable game. We have to come out of the gate strong here, and if we can at least get a win here, maybe that buys me an extra 3 games later in the season.
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell's thinking the exact same thing on the other side.
Yeah, wow. I think Daniel Jones is a better quarterback to win football games than Sam Darnold.
It's a bold statement, Cotton.
Well, I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks ranked in the mid-30s here, so let's not get too excited regardless of how this turns out. Up next, the New Orleans Saints are hosting the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, the Saints are 4-point favorites, minus 205. Panthers plus 170 on the money line. Over-under sits at 41.5. I'm just riding with New Orleans until proven otherwise. I think Carolina is the worst team in the league with New England, so I think that 4 is pretty ridiculous. I think New Orleans has at least enough decent players that they should be able to win by almost a touchdown.
I think the Panthers are very much going to try to do kind of what the Ravens did and throw the entire kitchen sink at this game. I don't think it'll be enough to win, but I think they'll stay within 4, so I'm going to take the Panthers here.
Fair enough. They better be able to keep this game within 4 because if New Orleans blows them out, it's going to be a really long season for them.
Yep.
Up next, we have the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Denver Broncos in the not Russell Wilson revenge game since he's no longer in Denver. The Seahawks are 6-point favorites, minus 260 for their money line, plus 210 for Denver. Over-under sits at 41.5. A lot of 41.5 over-unders this week. Jimmy, we get Sean Payton and it's Bo Nix, right? That's their starter.
Yep.
They love him. Do you love him?
I think Bo Nix will be able to dink and dunk his way to a pretty good season.
Agreed.
I think even though you play in Denver, I think it is just too tough of an ask to ask a rookie NFL quarterback to go to Seattle for game one. So I'm taking Seattle here.
I like Seattle to win. I like Denver to cover. So I'll take Denver with the spread. I do like the over here because I think Sean Payton is going to do exactly what you said. They're going to dink and dunk their way to maybe 14-ish points. Maybe bump that up to 20. But this feels to me like a 24-20, 24-17 game, which I know wouldn't hit the over. But it just, I don't know. Man, now I'm talking myself into Seattle to cover. Because if they're going to cover, they're going to have to get to 24. Like 24-20 would get there. Can Denver get to 20? I think Denver can get to 20.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of seasoned veterans that go into Seattle and can't muster up 20 points with good teams.
You know what? So, you've convinced me, and I should also be betting against. You should start the season betting against the rookie quarterbacks. Even last year, C.J. Stroud, you could bet against him early and make some hay. It was later when he really got rolling. So you've convinced me. I'm going to take Seattle with the 6.
Yeah,
I'm going to lay the 6. I still like the over.
Yeah,
still like the over.
I'm good with that.
Next up, we have Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL. He is coaching the Los Angeles Chargers. They're home taking on the Raiders. The Chargers are 3-point favorites, minus 160 on their money line, plus 135 for the Raiders. Over-under on this one sits at 39.5. What do you expect to see from the Chargers? And what do you expect to see from the Chargers in Harbaugh's debut?
It wouldn't surprise me if this game went under, but I think the Chargers will win this one by 5 or 6. So I'm taking the Chargers here with the minus 3.
I take the Chargers. I take the under because I think the Chargers are going to run the ball.
Yeah.
I think Jim Harbaugh is going to come in and they're going to run the ball and they're going to grind clock and they're going to try and make the game slow. I think they know that they're not as explosive and that they can't just expect to march up and down the field on teams. So they're going to try and grind clock, keep the defense fresh. The fewer plays that defense plays, the better because it keeps those guys at the top of their game, and it also gives them less chances to get hurt. I like the Chargers. I think they're going to be good this year. I have the Chargers making the playoffs. This just seems like the type of game that Harbaugh can coach his way to a win.
Yeah.
Our next game sees our old friend Baker Mayfield and his Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Washington Armada. For those of you new to the podcast, we refuse to call them the Commanders because that name sucks. They should have been the Washington Armada. It would have been awesome, but no, we can't have fun things. Anyway, the Buccaneers are 3.5-point favorites, minus 190 on their money line, plus 158 for the Commanders. Over-under sits at 42.5. We're going to get to see Jaden Daniels right out the gate. Jimmy, what are you expecting?
I think the Buccaneers will win this game, but I think it'll only be by a field goal. I don't think the Buccaneers are built to win too many blowouts, too many big wins. I think they're going to be in a lot of close games, so I'm going to take the Armada here at plus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I do think Tampa Bay wins this game. I don't think they cover. I also like the under.
Yeah.
I really want to take Tampa Bay to win this game by 10 because there's just so much Jaden Daniels buzz. It makes me think that he's like everybody's setting him up for failure.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Washington team's very good. They do have a couple of nice pieces on offense, so he has some weapons to get to, but I don't have much faith in that defense at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like if the Buccaneers won this game by 3 scores, I wouldn't be surprised. But
yeah, I mean Washington might just be bad.
Yeah,
they might. I mean, we think they're going to be mediocre bad. They could just be bad.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like there's just so much buzz around Jaden Daniels. I'm like, is there something I'm missing? Do I just?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel the same way about all these rookie quarterbacks. I think Caleb's going to be at least pretty good. I don't know. Like, there's people talking about him being like a superstar right out the gate, like C.J. Stroud was last year. I don't think he's going to be that good, but
Me
he
either.
doesn't need to be that good for that team to make the playoffs.
No.
But we do this every year. It's all these guys are great, and then maybe one or two of them are starting caliber quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
betting against the rookies is generally a good strategy early in the season. Two big games left for us to discuss. The first is the Sunday night affair, a replay of the divisional round matchup between the Detroit Lions hosting the LA Rams. This line moved a full point. It was 3.5. Now the Lions are favored by 4.5, minus 220 on their money line. Rams plus 180. Over under sits at 52.5. I like the Rams here, Jimmy, and I like Detroit on the season, but like LA almost beat them in the playoffs. Like, I don't understand. Is Aaron Donald that big of a difference? I mean, he might be.
He might be, but I don't think so. Not at 4.5. Give me the Rams all day.
I like the under just because that's a huge number.
It's a big number, especially with most of the numbers this week being in the 40s. Like, that's a big number for two teams that are probably going to play. Well, no, never mind. If Dan Campbell was a normal coach, he'd coach this thing a little cautious, but he's not that. So
well, I think the Rams are going to look to run the ball. So I think the Rams are going to look to slow the pace of this game down. Like, I feel like the Rams are going to kind of approach this game like the Chargers are. They're going to look to run the ball to set up the pass, and they have the backs to do it. And we'll see what Williams looks like, and the rookie that they have there. It's going to be interesting to see what the carry totals look like for those two guys.
What exactly he's willing to give Blake Corum early.
Yeah, because if they can keep Williams fresh for the whole season, man, that dude's just so explosive. So if they have something out of Corum, man, that gives them two really, really good backs. And like, that's just, you don't want that. like that Rams offense, just when McVay can have running backs that can do dynamic things with Puka Nacua and Stafford and Cooper Kupp, like, that's just a dangerous, dangerous team.
Yes, it will be.
Up next, we have San Francisco. They are home taking on the New York Jets on Monday night. The 49ers are 4.5-point favorites, minus 205 on their money line, plus 170 for the Jets. 43.5 is the over-under. The Niners get everybody back. They settle with Trent Williams. They settled with Brandon Ayuk. So it's just going to be a big kumbaya affair, right, Jimmy?
Yes. Yes. We differ greatly on what we think the Jets are going to be, but I don't think the Jets can keep this within a touchdown. I think the 49ers are a touchdown better than most teams in the league, and I don't think that changes here in week one.
Yeah, I like San Francisco here. I like them on the over. I think the Jets offense is really going to struggle because I think that 49ers defense is really going to get after Rodgers. They've given him problems in the past when he was with Green Bay. I think that continues with him here in New York. Any moneyline parlays, teasers? What are you looking at playing this week, Jimmy?
So I think for me, I think the parlays I'm looking at the most are the Cowboys at plus 2.5 with the Bengals minus 8.5, the Texans -3, and then I'll probably go with the Panthers and the Vikings unders as well. I think that's a good 5-leg parlay that's got great payout potential. I really like that.
Yeah, I feel really confident that the Bills, the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Chargers are going to win. I like that as a 14 parlay. Like I said, anything you can do with the New England under, like just the New England point total under almost always hits. I'm also, I know I said I was taking Jacksonville, but it's early in the season and Mike McDaniel's going to have something for everybody. I like Tua over. I like Tyreek Hill, I like Tua over 269.5. I like Tyreek Hill over 95.5, and I like Tyreek Hill to score a touchdown. You can get that right now as a 3-leg parlay. That's plus 310. I gave it a 33% profit boost, so it's now plus 510. So nice. I like that bet a lot. As we said, New England under. That was just the bet of the year last year, was if you just bet New England to go under their point total every single game, I think you won 14 or 15 weeks.
Yep.
Which games are you most dialed into which games are you most dialed into?
So I'm concerned that I'm most dialed into the Cowboys-Browns game for our Browns. That has me concerned that what I think is going to happen is what's going to happen. I feel very dialed into the Texans. I just think it's disrespectful that line's only 3. And then I really think the Chargers as well. I think they're the new head coach, the new offensive coordinator, the new running backs. It's going to make a huge difference. So those are the games I feel most confident about. So that's probably where I'm focusing a lot of attention. And then I just think that Panthers, Saints, and the Vikings game, I think you're going to see very little points in those ones.
Yeah. Everybody's going to expect a light show for some of these games early. And, of course, we got it with Philadelphia and Green Bay. But generally the defenses are ahead of the offenses.
Yeah.
As a general rule, so you will find a few games here and there, but for the most part, these games are going to mostly go under. Man, I just want to see what that Buffalo team looks like. This is a game that they should win pretty handily, and are they going to slow things down, run the ball more like they were late in the season, and have Josh Allen just do Josh Allen things a few times a game, or are they going to still lean on him 10 to 15 times a game?
Right.
What does that passing game look like without Stephon Diggs? I think there's a lot of
questions.
See, I actually go the other way on it. I think without having Diggs there to worry about feeding him the ball, if they start spreading the ball out more, I think that's beneficial.
Yeah, and I want, just because the interviews are so great, I want Keon Coleman to be very good.
Well, I guess we'll get to see it, man.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Full Sunday slate.
Yeah, man. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll get to see the Browns, 4 o'clock, spotlight, Tom Brady, first game on Fox, the national game. Everybody's going to be pulling for the Browns because everybody hates the Cowboys, which is what has me terrified about this game, because every time we've been in this spot, the Browns usually drop a big fucking shit on the field and look like garbage.
Usually.
And all you people out there that get mad at me for saying this Browns team isn't that good, it's not my fault that that's what they normally do in these situations.
Yeah. I guess the biggest question in this Browns game, and I'm not saying he can't do it, but Conklin at left tackle is just, how often is he going to win? That's just what it's going to come down to, because we know for the most part, the small sample size we have of Deshaun Watson as a Brown, when he has faced pressure, it has been nothing but bad. So,
yeah. Well, we'll all get to see it on Sunday. Thanks, man. Yep. This is great getting to talk football again. We're in it again, man.
Oh, week 1, here we go, man. No place I'd rather be, brother.
For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore. We both wish you very good luck here in this first week. Vegas is generally trying to figure things out for the first few weeks, so if you have strong feelings, this is the time to bet them. Try and get your best odds. Use your profit boost. There's all sorts of promotions and stuff out there, so take advantage of whatever free money you can find. We do these pods every week, trying to find you winners. We did our over-unders pod. That will be linked in the description below. We did a full dive on the Cleveland Browns. We spent an hour digging into everything from the front office to the players on the field and what we think will happen with this team moving forward. Link in the description below for that one as well. For Jimmy Champ, I'm Evan Belfiore. We wish you much luck here as we start out the NFL season and another year of no broken legs.